Dealing with depression and difficult times, my specialty. I figure with this one, you've probably seen enough of my other stuff to go into great detail on it. You know what to do in the Mind OS and my anger map and everything. But why don't we just cut to the chase with this? There are two general concepts that I like teaching guys to help with depression and difficult times. One's more of a lyrical storytelling kind of concept, and one is more pure science. The pure science is depression is simply a manifestation of anger. And we see more often in clinical practice that males, more often than females, will exhibit their depression through angry acts and an angry demeanor, whereas women will exhibit it more just through overt sadness. So anytime you feel angry, frustrated, that might be a little twinge of depression. It might not be to clinical grades where you actually have physical symptoms and need a medication or even counseling. But when you feel angry, it's one way that a depressive feeling gets manifested in a man. And there are several options for depression. There are three, actually. Once you are angry, you could feel depressed and wallow in that, and that's a passive response. It's just going to expand and get worse. Another is to be hostile or aggressive, to do wrong to others, to do harm to others, to hurt their feelings or disrespect their resources or possessions, or to even harm them physically, to get in a fist fight can be a manifestation. And the only way out is called assertiveness. And assertiveness is a healthy way of using anger and the only psychological route out of depression. There's a medical route out of the physical problems that it causes, like I can't sleep, I can't eat, I got no energy. Medicines help that. But the psychological roots of it, the only way out is assertiveness. And assertiveness is just figuring out what are my needs and going and getting them met without harming others. That's assertiveness.
I actually just recently, to put a personal note, well, on a longer timeline, in my 20s, I was confronted with a lot of disappointment and missed opportunity, and I got depressed for a little bit. And only through, as a man, only through working that process out and like clawing my way back and starting to perform better did I get past that stage. Assertiveness. I wouldn't have called it that at the time. But today, I like the quote from Winston Churchill: when you're going through hell, keep on going. I found that if I just keep putting one foot in front of the other and one foot in front of the other and getting through like the difficult patches or the frustration or the annoying things, they generally pass. And as long as I hit all the, like, I identify what the problem is, I do my best to like address it, and then I move on. Usually it gets better over time, and I end up in a different psychological place a day later, or a week later. And I just woke up the other night and I have a bunch of nettlesome issues. I'm about to take a trip, and there's all these little things that are kind of swirling around in my mind that are distracting me. And what I did is I just got up and I made a list of them and basically the solutions that needed to be applied very mechanically, what I got to do. And that gave me some sense of control over it. And I'm just going to go through and hit each of those and then not give it any more thought. I did what I could, and those are addressed. And they're very small things, but instead of wallowing and sitting or ignoring them when they amplify, as you said, which would have been behavior 10 years ago in my 20s, I know now that if I just, because I've been through this cycle many, many times, life is full of issues that come down the pike and problems, some of my own creation, other people, and I can get angry or irritated. The only way out really is through them and being assertive and dealing with them and moving on.
You know, dovetailing on that, there's a mantra that I have in clinical practice, and that's that there's a solution to every problem. I really think there is a solution to every problem, but there's a whole giant wastebasket bin for types of problems that are beyond our control. And that's how I can really actually make that statement that there's a solution to every problem, because it's either controllable and we can pick it apart and analyze it and find out what is the solution I can execute on, or it's in this wastebasket bin of all the stuff I cannot control. And if it's in that bin, ironically, your way of controlling it or solving it is to say, I don't control it, to surrender
Right.
to the things you don't control and then focus on what you do.
I kind of do that mentally. I have two bin like some stuff is a temporary irritant and others are a permanent thing that I am not going to be able to go back to, like a missed career opportunity or a poor performance in parts of college. And that I accept it's part of my story and I have to move on. And we talk about regret. Basically, that's tied off. There's no revisiting that. And I think it helps to look at two categories. Yeah, those that are in the wastebasket that are out of my control, they're done with, and now they're a permanent part of my journey. And revisiting them and feeling that negative energy isn't going to do anything. I can learn the lessons, but I have to move on. And then there's ones that I can take action on in the near term and actually solve.
Yeah, literally, if you cultivate the ability to be assertive and you also cultivate good boundaries, then you're golden as far as depression and difficult times, because our boundaries are what separate what we control from what we don't, and we are responsible for what's inside us and not responsible for what's outside of us. We can only influence, try to have an impact, but we don't control what's out there. So what I'm saying by this is that if you view assertiveness as like a kind of ability to self-mother what's in you, work with what you got inside and mother it, then meeting your own needs without hurting others is like mothering yourself. So you learn to be a good mother to yourself when you're an adult man.
Right.
And then your boundaries are what shield you from the randomness of the world out there. So when we talk about difficult times in this topic, the second thing I told you was more storytelling and lyrical. I like calling the difficult times that come from out there that we didn't create inside. They're just out there, wasteland periods of a man's life.